Hey again from the garden, it's Christina from Sunshine and Flora. So today is Friday and I'm out here this afternoon working on some irrigation for my flower beds. I feel a little dirty, hopefully I look okay for this video, but I just wanted to share this with you guys. So as you probably know, hand watering your flower beds can take forever, especially if you have a large area. And last year I added some drip irrigation to my pumpkin bed and it was awesome. I don't think my pumpkins would have grown that good if I didn't have that, because they really need consistent water. Pumpkins are very heavy feeders. So I just got that all hooked up yesterday, so I wanted to show you guys what I am using and how I set that up. But then today I was working on running some irrigation to my dahlias. Dahlias are also very heavy feeders. They need a lot of consistent water. And so I have some soaker hoses run in a setup to water each of the plants right by where it comes out of the ground. And I think it's going to work pretty good. So first I want to show you my dahlia patch, and then we'll run out and I'll show you how my drip irrigation is set up, and then I'll tell you where I got everything. All right, so I am in my main dahlia patch and I have 3 rows, which you may not be able to see the first row, but I'll show you that in a minute. So I have a planting area here, 1 here, and 1 here. Each planting bed is 3 feet wide and about 13 to 14 feet long. And so I have 2 rows of dahlias in each row. And spacing wise, the dahlias are 18 inches this way. So the 2 rows are 18 inches apart. And then each plant is 12 inches this way. And dahlias are very susceptible to powdery mildew, and so when watering them, it is very helpful to water them at the base of the plant. Now, if you're trying to water your dahlia patch and you're doing it by hand when your plants get really big, it's almost impossible to not get water all over the leaf canopy. So it really helps if you can run some sort of irrigation right at the base of the plant. They're doing some construction across the street, so by the way, if you hear some noise, that's what it is. Hopefully that's not distracting. But anyway, let me show you how this runs and give you a close-up look at the actual hoses. Okay, so here is a look at the entire dahlia patch. So here's 1 planting row, here's 1 planting row, and here is the 3rd one. This one actually is a lot taller because these are the dahlias that I did cuttings from. And so these got planted in the ground already as plants. And some of these are 2 to 3 feet tall, and they already have been pinched. Now, these obviously are a lot smaller because these got planted as tubers in the ground, but they will catch up and I will definitely get a ton of blooms out of them in September because we're only in mid-July. So these soaker hoses that I'm using are from Gardener's Supply. They're the 75-foot flat soaker hose. And so far, I think they're working great. When I zoom in here, you can see I have 1 hose next to each row and it runs right next to the base of the plant. And you can see, hopefully you guys can see the water coming out, and you can tell that the soil is really nice and saturated. Now, I'm not sure yet how exactly long I want to run these, but I'm guessing if I turn them on in the morning and run them maybe 15, 20 minutes, that's going to really give these plants a good soak. So throughout this whole area, I actually have 3 soaker hoses running, and I had them all connected, and I was finding that the 3rd one, I think it was a little bit long of a distance for the water to travel to really get through the hose correctly. So I unhooked that one, and I'll show you my spigot in a minute, but I actually have the 3rd one running by itself. And so the soaker hoses not only run through my dahlia plants, but they run over here through this planting row, which is lilies, and then I have a hill of pumpkins at the end. And clearly I have a very healthy hill of pumpkins at this end. This is Casperita. So the soaker hoses actually connect through and run right through the pumpkin vines to water those also. And then you can see they cross here. They come up through this zinnia bed and travel all the way over through the zinnias, through my sweet corn, through the Rebecca, and then down over here I'll show you is actually where my spigot is. But they run the length of the building and they eventually connect down there to the water. So here's the water outlet on the side of my building that I was talking about. You can see it's a 4-way splitter. I also got this from Gardener Supply. The 2 water lines on the left are the soaker hoses. This one right here runs to a hose that goes out to the other area of the garden, and then this one right here is to another hose that hand waters this area of the garden. So that is basically how this whole area is watered, and I am really excited to just have pretty much an automated system. Like I said, I'll turn it on in the morning, maybe 15-20 minutes, see how saturated it is. I would think a half an hour at the most, turn it off, and it should be good for the day. All right, let me go show you my drip irrigation. So this is the back garden area, and if you've been watching my videos, you know that this is all of the new planting area that we added for this year, including the hoop house. Now, none of this has irrigation run to it. I hope to do that next year. I pretty much just wanted to get everything planted this year, so next year I'm going to be addressing that irrigation. And you'll notice these 4 beds are pretty much empty. When we get a heavy rain, this area pretty much turns into a lake, and these 4 beds do not drain well. So we have to address that issue, but everything else is looking really good. And over here, the long bed that is along that building, it's a 96-foot long bed that I built last year. This is where all of my pumpkins are, and this is where my drip irrigation is. So this is the hose that runs off of one of those connectors off of the spigot of my building, and I have it hung here just to kind of keep things a little bit neat and tidy. But you can see down here I have yet another splitter. So this is just a 2-way splitter. I got it at a local garden store. This is the hose that I use for hand watering. This is the connector that goes to the drip irrigation. So you can see this splitter has little on-off switches so that I can turn them on and off and use just one at a time. So then if we follow this green hose over, this is where it actually connects to the drip. And this is where my setup is a little bit dorky, because you can see some of the drip is running on the sidewalk. That issue will be fixed next year as well. But this is where the drip connects. It's a 1/4-inch drip, and the holes, I believe, are every 12 inches. This is just the end of it that's the stopper. And then there is a filter on the opposite end so that debris can't get in here. So then this runs over to the pumpkin bed. And then here you can see the line running in the pumpkin bed. So I just have this whole line running the length of the bed. The drip line itself is 100 feet and the bed is 96 feet. And so it ends up working perfectly. And I'm just holding it in place with some landscape staples. I don't have them pushed all the way down because I don't want to kink the drip line, but this is just holding them in place. And you can obviously tell where it waters because that is nice and saturated. I turned this on this morning and I ran it for a half an hour because it gets really, really hot out here where the pumpkins are. And so I feel like half an hour is definitely necessary. So here you can see it running through these pumpkins. These are really small. I hope they bulk up because then you get to these hills and they are looking a lot better. I actually just put some composted manure next to each hill of pumpkins, and so I'm hoping that really gives them a boost too. But I think just by having this automated watering every morning, it's going to really help, especially because next week we're supposed to be 95 to 100 degrees every single day. And while we're over here, here is a peek at the dahlias inside my hoop house. You can see they are all looking so good. These are just growing like crazy in here. No buds on them yet, but I don't think it'll be long. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope it was helpful for you guys and maybe gave you some ideas on how to easily set up some irrigation. Like I said, I probably should have done this earlier and it would have been much easier to set up where I didn't have to weave through the plants, but you know what? Better late than never, and now I have an idea of how I want to get things set up for next year. So anyway, stay tuned for a lot more videos throughout this growing season. Next week I'm going to be replanting the hoop house with some summer fall crops, so I'll make sure to share that with you guys too. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon.